Well, shooters and reloaders and 3 circles passengers and members, it's Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from the hot lead zone. And you know how much we love the 223, shooting the 223 and reloading for the 223, right? Well, let's do some of that today, but the real star of today's video is not my Thompson Center in 223 caliber. It's the 26-inch barrel, but rather the RCBS powder measure. And this particular one is the competition powder measure from RCBS. I think it's called a UPM3, and it's the one that's different than the Uniflow 3, which I've been running for the last few years. And before that, I was running the Uniflow 1. That was the top that fell off. The Uniflow 1. I was running this for about over 40 years before I switched to the Uniflow 3. And then what happened was Hodgson contacted me, Joel Hodgson, from the marketing department over there, wanted to know if he could help me with any of my content creation. And you know, I was very happy to suggest that. Well, you know what, powder handling, I mean, that's what Hodgson's all about, right? Powder. Try out this competition powder measure and see how you compare it with the Uniflow 3. So thanks to Joel, he sent me this one to run, and let's go ahead and do that with our 223. And I've got a great powder load for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't use a Hodgson powder. It uses the old Reloader 12. The whole idea is how well does the UPM3 by RCBS run the little shorter grain extruded log type powders. That's going to be a difficult powder for the UPM3 to run, but let's see how well it does. So I know how all of you like to see things disassembled, so I went ahead and disassembled it, knowing that it was going to be a chore getting this rotor back in there because of the fact that it's such a very close tolerance fit. Well, let's wipe it off. I like to put it in this way, but you have versatility. You can do it from either direction. But in order to get this in there, you see now it's stuck. And it's possible from the instructions that you can get it stuck so bad you can't get it out. And they don't recommend pounding it out because you're going to damage something. So once you get it, and the idea is to vibrate it a little bit like that, and it'll slide in. Got it. So then let's put in the stem. Now there's already videos talking about the stem, so we won't go into that too much. But the tolerances on the stem are very close also. You want to line up the hole in the rotor with the hole in the stem. Like that, and you can see that so that when you put the set screw in, like that. So now your stem is anchored, and now I can run it and cut off with a cut the charge and drop the powder charge with a forward downward stroke. So I kind of like that. So of course we want to verify that indeed this brass is minus 0.002 on the headspace. Don't know if you can see that or not, but that's minus 0.002. Now this brass is fully prepped, so let's go ahead and just measure the length of the brass. .745, and of course 1.760 is a maximum, and we would trim it back to 1.750, but I went to 4.5 on this, so let's check another one. Grab one over here. 1.744. So you see they're all prepped and ready to go. They're primed with Remington 7 1/2 bench rest small rifle primers. Primer pockets have been uniformed, and also the flash holes are done. Everything's deburred and chamfered. So this brass is all prepped and ready to take a powder charge. There you see the Uniflow 3, and it's got a baffle in there, and I've been letting this sit for a little while, let it settle. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw about 20 charges and put them back into the hopper just to get the powder to settle. And then we're going to go ahead and set the powder measure to throw 25.3. The idea is I'm going to use the RCBS M1000 to trickle up to 25.4, but I'm hypothetically going with the powder measure set for 25.3, and we'll see how accurate, how many times it gives me 25.3 or a tenth high or a tenth low. We're going to go ahead and chart 20 throws and see how accurate the Uniflow 3 is, then run the same test with the UPM3 competition powder measure and see which one might be better. Okay, so I threw about 5 charges to fill the powder trickler, and then we threw a charge and took the pan over to the scale, and you see it's right on 25.3. Now we'll trickle up. Let's set the scale now for 25.4. So a tenth isn't much. We'll trickle that up. A little bit more. Okay, there's 25.4. Now I'll go ahead and put that into one of the cases. Okay. Okay, let's throw another charge. Now you remember where 25.3 was. Okay, that second throw was 25.0. So it was off by 0.3. I went ahead and logged that. So now let's go ahead and throw 20 charges total and see how the Uniflow 3 performs with the Reloader 12 powder. Okay, now the UPM3 competition powder measure from RCBS. The first throw, after we got it to read 25.3, the first throw is right on. So we'll log that. Then I need to trickle up to 25.4. Here's the throw. So this is the fifth throw, and you see we're set at 25.3, and you see it's a little light. So I'll move the slider to 25.2. Right there. So you see that the fifth throw was off by 1/10. And look at that, the 14th charge is right on 25.3. The competition RCBS powder measure is on a roll. So here's the last throw. Let's go ahead and check the results. There you see the little grains. They're short-cut, tubular, log-type granules. And doing this testing, I figured out that it takes 3 of those granules to make 1/10 of a grain. Sometimes it takes 4. But depending on the size of the granules that trickle out, 3 make 1/10 of a grain. Well, there are the Uniflows on my little powder measure rack right there in my powder charging station, and you see the Uniflow 3 in the middle cleaned up real well, and so did the UPM3 competition powder measure, as you see. Okay, here are the results. This is with the Uniflow 3. The target is 25.3. So we got an average of 25.25, a low of 24.9 right there in the middle of the screen, a high of 25.4. There was 1 at 24.9, 3 at 25.4, and there were 4 bullseyes right on 25.3 out of the 20. RCBS UPM3 competition powder measure. There are the throws. You notice that we went to number 21 and 22. The reason why is number 20 bridged. We got a situation where the whole powder charge didn't come out. I had to kind of wrap it a little bit, and then I discarded that one and did 3 extra to see if it would bridge again. No, it didn't, but it did bridge. Well, we're only like count up to 20 and not do 21 and 22, even though 22 gave us another bullseye, 25.3. So here the average is 25.29 with 25.3 being the target. So that's pretty good average. It beat the Uniflow 3, and the low was 25.1 and the high was 25.4. So a smaller spread. And then there were 11 at 25.3. So there were 11 bullseyes out of the 20, which means that the standard deviation is going to be lower a fair amount lower with the UPM3 competition powder measure. Now the spread was only 0.3, whereas the spread on the Uniflow 3 was 0.5. So smaller spread, more bullseyes equal a lower standard deviation, probably half the standard deviation than the Uniflow 3. If you've got a good node in your powder charge accuracy feet per second node, you can use the RCBS UPM3 competition powder measure nicely to actually throw your charges right into your cases. And there's different opinions on all the powder measures. It boils down to the operator having a consistent operation of the powder measure to give you the best accuracy of any powder measure. So remember that for a fact. Does it bring you joy to use the equipment? And I must say that when I use these RCBS products, whether it be my Rebel press or Rock Chucker press, got two of those, I get a lot of joy out of using RCBS products, and that includes their dies. So on the sheer joyfulness index, I like these products. So take care, and we'll see you next video. Bye for now.